Stay tuned if you want to learn how to make these crochet tassel earrings. As usual, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. And also, while you're at it, hit that notification bell. Otherwise, you'll miss the new videos that are coming out. So these directions are a two-parter. This is the first part, and this is the second part. For this first part, you're going to need a 4mm crochet hook. You're going to need 2 pieces of embroidery floss, some Premier Cotton Fair yarn, and this is in a silver color. And for the second part, don't forget your tools and your 22mm wire. And that's it. Let's get started. With the Premier Cotton Fair yarn, you are going to just start with a slip stitch on your hook. Now, grabbing your embroidery floss and leaving the labels on, you are going to put the yarn behind it, and then you're going to wrap the yarn around it and just pull up a loop. You just made a little slip stitch on there. Now you're going to pull up a loop from underneath the embroidery floss, and then you're going to yarn over and pull underneath the 2 loops, and you're going to repeat that around it. Again, pulling up a loop underneath it, yarning over, and then you're going to pull through the 2 loops on your hook. And it should start looking like this. It's okay from this point to start checking to see the length on either side of your tassel and pull it through. It's not going to hurt it. So I call this the pinch, and if you pinch it together, just to check to see if the 2 sides are even, it's okay to do that also. At this point, it's okay to remove the papers. It's not going to come unraveled. And make sure you do your length checks and your pinches. If you found that during your pinch research that this length is perfect for you, then you could just cut the yarn. This is going to be your first crochet project where you just basically crocheted by feel. It doesn't have to have a right amount of stitches. I bet you my one earring has more stitches than the other. It doesn't matter. It's all about feel and the way it looks. Now take that end that you had cut and start wrapping it around the bottom of your earring tassel here. Now once this part feels right, you're going to thread it into a needle. Now from this point, all I'm doing is just going to string it up through the bottom of the wrap part. So with this exposed yellow part, I've noticed that I have a little piece that I need to pull through. And so how you do that easily is I just used a crochet hook and I stuck it in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this through and watch carefully at the bottom of the tassel to see which string is coming through. And I found it, and then I could just pull it individually. Boom. This is going to make it look really professional if you don't have any strings that are loose. Now I'm pulling that gray thread through, being careful not to grab any of the yellow tassel. So from this point on, I'm just going to cover up that exposed yellow part Seems easy enough, right? So I can just fast forward this, right? Okay. So this is the finished product here. This is the front of the work here. And then this part is the back of the work. So now we're gonna finish off this piece of yarn here. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna run that thread all the way through. We're not gonna do any knots because knots make everything look worse. So if we just string it all through the earring, it should be just fine. It's not gonna come undone. Now we're just going to cut that off because we're all done. And now we're going to deal with the tassel part. To get the most length out of our tassels, I would suggest you cut the loops first. And then cut the ends as straight as you can with the best scissors you can find in your arsenal. And now this is the result. Now let's see that again. We're going to slip stitch our gray yarn onto our hook. We're going to grab our embroidery floss and we're going to slip stitch our yarn to the floss. Now we're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to grab our end of our yarn from the beginning here. It's just a loose piece of thread. And then we're going to grab it and lay it along the embroidery floss. We're going to go under and we're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull it through the two loops and make a crochet over top of that yarn and the embroidery floss at the same time. Now we're going to go under the embroidery floss, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull it through two loops, and just repeat that all the way down until we feel it looks good. Once it looks good, cut the yarn. Now pull it through. Now cut your beginning thread, and please don't cut any of the yellow parts. Now thread your end onto a needle. Now we're going to start wrapping the tassel. Once that feels right, we're going to take our needle end and we're going to start threading it in. And from this point, there's always a exposed yellow part. So now you know how to cover that. So do that and thread your yarn through. Now cut your yarn. Now, like I said before, cut your loops first before you cut the tassel. Now compare your earrings to make sure they're even. And if they're not, do some more cutting. Now let's grab our wire and we're going to make a loop. Now take your earring and string it on from the back. Make sure you're stringing it on from the center loop of your tassel. Now from this point, I'm going to take that end wire and I'm just going to start wrapping it around. And now take note of the ending position of that wire. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just squishing it so that the wire wraps are uniform. Now I'm going to bend the wire towards me. So now from this point, I'm just going to bend the wire. I could do it by hand, or I can grab another circle item and wrap it around it. And when you get to the end of that, make sure you bend the end up. And if it looks like this, then you can cut the wire. And like I mentioned in my 10 things I wish I knew about wire wrapping video, hold your wire so you don't put your eye out. And now for the finishing touches of our earring wire, what we're going to do next is we're going to grab a pair of pliers, and we are going to take that little end piece that we see here, and we're going to take that piece and we're going to bend it around the other end piece, just like this. Now that we have that bent, we're going to shorten that wire just a little bit because we're going to make a little notch for you to put your ends in. So when you put your earring on, you wouldn't have this long piece on there. You have a little short piece that you can just slip your end in, like a little closure. So your tassel earrings are done. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you are able to create your own tassel earrings. And as always, thank you so much for watching.